Johnson, that is picked off. How dangerous. Woods on the return. Cuts to the outside. And he's taken down with 2 seconds remaining.
This is the Coach's Smoke Barbecue Baylor pregame show on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Offset with Smith in the backfield on 2nd and goal. And instead, they come around with the tight end. Ben Sims takes it in.
The Baylor pregame show is also presented by the Nitchie Group.
And now the short pitch to Smith, and Smith spins out of it. And Smith inside the 15, looking for the corner, and gets it. Touchdown, Bears. Keandre Coburn whipped at the line of scrimmage, and Smith sped off for 32 yards and a score.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on this Saturday morning. High school football has started the playoffs in Texas. College football trying to get to theirs at some point here in the next month. And today, what a game at McLean Stadium on what is a picturesque day in Central Texas. 11 o'clock kick between number 8 Oklahoma and number 13 Baylor. And they put on some shows, as we've mentioned throughout the week, the last decade, since really the RG3 pass to Terrence Williams in 2011. David Smoke, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoke, we're here. Armstrong Sims runs the mothership. This ticket for Baylor, I don't know what the attendance is going to be, and that's not why I brought it up, because whatever it is. I just know this. We have a friend of ours who's a huge Oklahoma fan. He was trying to get tickets for he and a couple of other people. Couldn't find them. He didn't want to go on some kind of third party or secondary level, whatever. Finally, and again, it's all relative, paid, what was it, Paul, $230 a piece or whatever it was for it. And then I got this from Will Norris. Saturday's game, the no-fee secondary ticket marketplace, the average normally is $122. He is saying that it's at least in that neighborhood of about $222 a ticket. And I'm sure there are some that are much less than that, but it's a great day. I'm excited about this. Craig Smoke and Paul Catalina, again, YouTube 365 Sports. Line open, 254-339-1122. I love today because today we're going to find out about Baylor. Do they bounce back? And Oklahoma needs a quality win and an emphatic win themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great game. We've been talking about it for days now. So, I'm kind of at that point by the time we reach Saturday where it's like, let's see it already. I'm kind of done with the talking, to be perfectly honest with you. Want to see the game. Want to see the outcome. Want to see what the storylines are coming out of this one. It's an elimination game in some ways. If Baylor loses, they're out of the Big 12 race. That would be, pretty much impossible for them to have any chance at getting into the Big 12 title game. For Oklahoma, they can afford to lose and still, get into that game. But obviously, it would hurt their playoff chances, probably eliminate those in some ways for some people. And, we'll see what happens. Oklahoma's got a lot of their, big games coming up now with both Baylor and Iowa State and Oklahoma State still to come. So this is the start of this final month and this final 3-week stretch, and there's a 4-team race, and it should be a lot of fun to see if there's still 4 teams out there today.
By the way, this pregame and Paul with the postgame show later on today following as soon as that game goes to 0, whatever the result, brought to you by Coach's XXX Smoke Barbecue right there in downtown Waco, and we appreciate them for that. All right, again, that's the ticket price. Last night, the game, Cincinnati eventually separated and beat South Florida. It wasn't easy early, but at halftime, I still think they led like 28-7. Ritter had a pretty good game. Nothing spectacular, but they took care of their business. And the early games today, the 11 o'clock games today, besides Oklahoma-Baylor, you have Bama at home in one of those late tuck-it in between some non-conference games against New Mexico State. Michigan and Penn State, 6th-ranked Michigan at Penn State, top 20 Penn State. Mississippi State at 17th-ranked Auburn. Northwestern plays at Wisconsin. That game at 11 o'clock, Wisconsin's 18th in the country, and also in the Big 12 at 11 o'clock, West Virginia playing at Kansas State. And that's kind of an interesting game with both of those teams in need of a win. So, will be interesting to see what happens. TCU at Oklahoma State, another Big 12 game. Iowa State at Texas Tech, and what has been a change there in Lubbock, and Kansas plays down in down in Austin tonight at 6:30. We're going to hear from former Baylor cornerback KJ Morton. When you guys think of, let's do this, the YouTube, love to hear from you. Also the text line or phone call. What, other than RG3 and his touchdown pass to Terrence Williams that put Baylor on the national map, been a bowl team the year before, they beat Oklahoma, RG3 wins the Heisman. That's the throw that pretty much not only may have won the Heisman, but also built the stadium we'll be in today, McLean Stadium. What is the biggest moment in the last decade that you remember when it comes to Baylor and Oklahoma?
Well, I mean, like single moment, it would be outside of the catch you described. It would be KJ Morton laying out Sterling Shepard, and I think he bruised his like spleen or something. I mean, it was a punishing hit that kind of set the tone for that game, and that was at Floyd Casey. That was at night at Floyd Casey on, was it Halloween night?
I don't
think so.
I don't know what it was. I just know that
it was a Thursday night. It was a Thursday night game.
Felt like it was.
Yeah, it was a Thursday night game in Floyd Casey, and it was absolutely just a punishing hit.
The former stadium where Baylor played forever, Floyd Casey, eventually torn down because the one that's now, which is state-of-the-art McLean Stadium, on a gorgeous view. Today's view is going to be incredible. It usually is. But that night, media was so intense as far as how many people from all over, not just the state, but the country, and the press box at Floyd Casey was antiquated. It was. It kind of renovated it a handful of times over the years, and a lot of us were in the auxiliary area. And we covered Baylor, of course, but we were in the auxiliary area. It was an amazing night, and Baylor beat the hell out of Oklahoma that night.
I went in, and this is it's strange how life works. One of our partners, Ashley Hodge, was sitting in front of me, and he is considerably taller than me. So about 20 minutes into watching the game, I said, I'm just going to go down to the field because we have field access. And I watched the whole rest of the game from the field after that because our seats were not great because of that. We had obstructed view because Ashley's.
Well, yeah, that's what I was talking about.
He's a mountain. He's not a mountain man, but he's a normally sized human, and I'm a midget. So I had to go down to the field and watch, and it was unbelievable from that level.
All right, Craig, you've covered a few of them. You've seen on the road Baylor win in Norman, which was shocking the way they dominated Bob Stoops. You've also seen the moments here where Oklahoma has found a way with that Sooner magic a couple of times 2 years ago. Your thoughts about Baylor, Oklahoma, the last you got here in 2013 since you started watching them in person?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great series. There's been a couple of blowouts here and there. Both sides have gotten their couple of blowouts in. Oklahoma more so than Baylor. There's not much to say on the Baylor side of things. There's 3 wins to remember. And they all have identifying factors. There was the Thursday night game. There was the RG3 to Terrence Williams throw, and there was the butt kicking up in Norman. That was quite embarrassing for OU fans, and still is something that you'll hear OU fans talk about. Just the way that that team gave them cushion, and they just, said, all right, we're going to just go 12 yards down the field, 13 yards down the field, 12, they just picked them apart. It was kind of an odd defensive a look from Oklahoma that Baylor just said, all right, we'll take all of that and, beat them up and then, knock Trevor Knight out of the game. So, those are the 3 Baylor victories. That's all there is. So, pick one from there if you want to. For the Oklahoma side of things, how long of a list do you want? Because they've won so many of these games.
Yeah.
And, just alone in the last few wins, you could pick like 3 or 4 plays from every one of those games.
And you could also pick the ones that didn't work out because of Chris Platt being cut from behind or other plays along the way as well.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Is Oklahoma has multiple plays in most all these games. So, that's what I mean. And, you could talk about Chris Platt getting chased down from behind or Jacob Zeno's, 2 throws that made everybody think he should be the starter for the next 5 years. And he's not even on the roster anymore. Didn't even end up starting the game for Baylor after that. But, boy, I wonder where that contingent went because, man, they were loud, and that didn't end up turning into anything. But, there's just little things here and there. But this is mostly just defined, to me, as a series that Oklahoma has dominated. The 3 wins Baylor's gotten have been massive wins for the school, and today would be one of those wins because of the position that they're in. They need a win. But if they don't get one, obviously nothing's lost as far as just a season. It's still a good season and whatnot, but you can make it a great season by beating Oklahoma today.
You absolutely could. From Ryan, I remember the 2019 comeback, Jalen Hurts that was here. Baylor led that game, and they looked like a top 5 team in the country. Well, they were unbeaten. They were up 28-3. Oklahoma scored to cut it to 28-10, and there was a little bit of bitterness about a call, about a defensive holding call, kind of a late flag, and they scored. They still had to go and score. Baylor kicked the field goal at the end of the half and still led 31-10. Oklahoma scored on their opening drive, stripped Jermichael Hasty. Benito forced a fumble. Oklahoma bounced right up in their hands at the 50, and here comes the Sooners. Sooner Magic. And eventually was a hell of a game. And then they met a handful of weeks later, just a few weeks later in the Big 12 championship game, and that was a great game. Oklahoma had the lead. Baylor comes storming back because of what Craig mentioned with young Jacob Zeno. And then the throw to Chris Platt, a perfect throw. Broke the seam. And then a young freshman from Oklahoma who was a 100-meter champion in the state of Oklahoma chased down Chris Platt, who couldn't see him coming from behind. Baylor stopped inside the 5 or 10 or 20, whatever it was, and could not get the touchdown. Oklahoma wins the Big 12 title.
Yeah, I would hope that Dave Aranda would know, just even though he wasn't around for many of these games, that if you get them down, in the first half or something, I mean, you better kill them. You better put a bullet in them because Oklahoma has time and time again, like you said, here in recent years, come back on Baylor when Baylor's had a lead. So, yeah, I mean, you got to stomp them out when you have the chance to, and you give them one little, chance at breath, and they're going to rise back up if you give them the opportunity to do so. But I don't think, it's going to be a game where you just put somebody down early on. I think this is going to be a back-and-forth game. At least that's what I expect. And it will come down to, who makes the plays at the end. And in this series, that's been Oklahoma more often than not. So unless, Baylor's got some RG3 magic up their sleeve or, a play like a Chris Platt, except for you convert it all the way or whatever. That's the type of plays I think they're going to need today, and those have been in Oklahoma's favor.
By the way, last year, Baylor was having a tough run. We know that. COVID and the fact it was a coaching transition. No spring drills, and really didn't get to know the players, and the players didn't really get to know the coaches. But Ron Roberts' defense, we hear a lot. And a lot of times when we talk about Baylor's defense and you hear it discussed, it's about Dave Aranda and his influence. And absolutely, we understand his influence from his time at LSU and a national championship, his time at Wisconsin, and along the way throughout his career. But Ron Roberts and the Baylor defense, as they were injured and also just not very good, went into Norman last year and lost 27-14. It ended a streak in the Lincoln Riley era of 60 consecutive games. Oklahoma had scored at least 28 points. Now they scored 27 and held OU to their fewest yard total in 5 years. And the game was still kind of on the line, and Charlie Brewer threw a pick at the end of the game. Was that Charlie Brewer that threw a pick at the end of the game? Oklahoma eventually won 2 years ago. He threw a pick at the end of the game that was so – how eerily similar was Charlie's pick against Oklahoma here when Baylor was trying to come back and win the game, similar to Gary Bohannon against TCU last week.
It was very, very similar.
Just kind of popped in my head. Yeah.
I think we mentioned that last week.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just talking about the game.
It was. I mean, it's just one of those things that, of all the throws you could make, it's that that
Charlie's
one.
was so telegraphed because he had just done it like the play before.
Yeah, the guy dropped it. Yeah, up over the middle. Yeah, you're
it's
right.
like they did it, nearly got picked off, and then said, let's do that again, because that almost got picked off, and then it got picked off. And, yeah, that was one of the more deflating, frustrating finishes, kind of like last week, yes, where you just throw it straight to a guy with the winning score, like within your sight, and you just throw it to a guy on the other team. And
so how important, with that being said, Craig, is that Gary Bohannon, who obviously has thrown the picks the last 2 weeks after being not flawless, but really, really sharp, how important is it for him to get off to a pretty good start, other than the obvious, you always want your quarterback and team to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that question always now is asked, and it's always followed up with, other than the obvious, because, I mean, it is the obvious, that's, I think, for every team in every game, that fast starts are important, and that's just kind of something we default to, But yeah, I mean, he can't afford to not do well in the first half, because I don't think that means he's going to turn on the Superman cape in the second half. That's not anything we've seen from Gary, really. I mean, he either gets off to a good start and plays pretty well, or he doesn't, and then he just kind of plays up and down maybe throughout the game. And I think that's what last week was. I think he played an okay game. I know Miranda lauded him for some of the tough throws he made and some of the pressure that he faced. Well, he's going to have to make those throws today because I think Oklahoma's going to bring some pressure, except for he's going to have to, hit them. Otherwise this offense is going to get bogged down like it can if the throws aren't connecting. So, he's got to be able to keep the OU defense on their heels early. I think it'd be big to hit a couple of throws just to, open it up for the running game. But, that's the thing every week, right, is hit some throws to open up the running game.
Well, last year the running game had 25 yards. But
that's not going to happen this year.
Having said that, Oklahoma was held to 76 yards rushing. They had 101 yards of total rushing yards between the two and just over 550 yards combined between the two. From the text line or from the chat room, Ryan, good morning. Golly, Baylor always makes me nervous, always so close. Best week ever, 900 game day, let's get it. From Quanah, last time I was here, I got the spread correct. Baylor by 7 against Texas. This time, Oklahoma by 28. And Quanah says, obviously, the committee wants Oregon, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma to lose to get the hell out of the way. I added that last part, if you don't mind. And then also we mentioned, I think the committee wants Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Notre Dame. And Oklahoma does not only need to win, but they need some blowout wins along the way.
Well, if they won by 28, I would be absolutely, positively shocked by that result. So, man, if they pull that off, then they deserve to be in the playoff, in my opinion, because I don't think anybody is, unless you're talking about, this Bama team having to fly over to Tuscaloosa and play that team. I don't see a lot of 28-point blowout losses for this particular bunch, no matter how bad or average some units may be playing, or even Gary Bohannon. I don't think this defense really allows you to get beat by 28. So we'll see. If Caleb Williams comes out there and torches him, blows him out by 28, then that Heisman talk, that would be very much for real. But I don't see it. But that is the big matchup, right? Lincoln Riley's offense and Dave Miranda's defense. And, these two have clashed before. They clashed, LSU and Oklahoma just a couple years back, and Dave Miranda won that round. Now, granted, he's got a lot of different players on this Baylor defense than he had on that LSU national championship winning defense. But the thing is he's got a lot of really good players on this defense still, with Terrell Bernard and Jalen Petrie and Siaki Ika and the entire secondary back. But you know what? Those guys are going to all be in question today. Ika's got to clog up the middle, and he's got to get some guys, some lanes get in the backfield. Terrell Bernard and Jalen Petrie are going to have to play, probably their best games that they played or close to it. And that secondary, after last week, if they're not chomping at the bit to get out there, their entire defense really, then why do you even play football?
No, they have to have had, and Oklahoma State physically beat them up. Remember Jalen Warren, and even that game was tight at the end. But Oklahoma State won the game, and what was it? TJ Franklin mentioned that was kind of their, they realized about focus. How you weren't focused going into that game, I don't know, but they weren't. Now, that's what he admitted. But if you're a secondary or pass rusher in this game, knowing who you're about to play with Caleb Williams, after what happened in Fort Worth, if you haven't washed your mouth out with soap with what happened last week to get that out of your system and come back and make some plays. But even if you are ready, doesn't mean that you're going to stop Oklahoma's passing game.
Well, let me ask you this. When did TJ Franklin say that?
He said that right before they played TCU. There you go.
Yeah, so what a wake-up call that was. Yeah. Wasn't that much of a wake-up call. Now, granted, it wasn't all on the defense or on the whole defense as a whole, but it was kind of on everybody when you look at it. Not being able to get to Chandler Morris, or when you did, not being able to bring him down, not covering guys, broken communication. The list goes on. I think they know the areas where they were lacking. And you know what? Chandler Morris, again, we've got to give him a lot of credit. It wasn't just some guy coming in there and making a bunch of lucky throws. He was hitting some darts. He was hitting some absolutely indefensible throws in some cases at the most pressure of times when he needed to, and when Baylor had him in their grasp. So Caleb Williams plays like that today. This defense can play well and still get hurt by the big play, but hopefully for their sake, they've got a bit bigger of a showing in front of them today on some of those close balls.
Well, yeah, on that game last week, I thought, and this is not immediate. Again, he's still got to play, but if the transfer portal door was open for Max Duggan at all, there was a beam of light shining through it, with the way Chandler Morris is playing,
like a spooky movie, reaching through and grabbing.
Yeah. But to your point, Craig, on how Baylor doesn't get beat badly. Look, they've lost by 10-2. okay? And the 10-point game was a 3-point game until, they kind of just cracked at the very, very end of the game. So that tells me this is a team that's going to keep things close. Their problem is, can you – like we saw against TCU and Oklahoma State, when they get kind of stuck in the mud, it just kind of contagious all around. It's not been one of those things where both sides, like one side plays well and the other one doesn't. It's like everybody just they're not all the way in gear, and they can't do that against Oklahoma. They just can't do it.
You're describing last year, right?
Yeah.
You're describing most of last year. All right, so today in the Big 12, Oklahoma, Baylor, here at McLean Stadium at 11 o'clock. It's on Fox. West Virginia, Kansas State, Iowa State, Texas Tech. I mentioned Kansas down in Austin. If you ever talked about a must-win, it's not a must-win, but can you imagine the meltdown? And then TCU plays in what could be intriguing in Stillwater against a very good and Oklahoma State team that still feels like they have hope with their one loss being against Iowa State. Oklahoma State, Baylor are still in the mix when at least you look at the college football standings. Baylor's chances of getting in, we know, are not as far as the college football playoff, but beating Oklahoma. If you went from 12 to 13, losing at TCU, what will you do if you are at 13 and beat Oklahoma? Probably get you about 10, maybe 9 or 10. It depends on what happens in front of you. But imagine what it could do to Oklahoma State, who still has their game coming down the road against the Oklahoma Sooners. KJ Morton, former Baylor cornerback. We mentioned some of the most memorable plays in the last decade between these two. Baylor's won 3 of those games. RG3's throw, KJ Morton's knockout hit of Sterling Shepard. He was ejected in the first quarter of that game. There was a drive in that game, and KJ will discuss this next with us. There was a drive in that game. I don't know if you guys remember this. In the opening drive or so, unsportsmanlike conduct against Ahmad Dixon, shocker. And then there was a personal foul call, I believe, on the same play, and it wasn't even KJ's hit. And then the sideline got a 15-yard penalty, which was half the distance to the goal, and Oklahoma did not score a touchdown inside the Baylor 10. That was kind of like Baylor knew it was their time. They were ready for a street fight, and a lot of times that team was. And then they eventually just hammered away at the Oklahoma Sooners. KJ Morton, he's next, former Baylor cornerback. On his memories, he beat and was a part of Baylor, beating Oklahoma twice. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue. It's Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary, or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Call us on the BetUS hotline, 254-339-1122.
We're now joined by former Baylor cornerback KJ Morton. KJ, man, great to hear from you. I was watching a hype video from Brock Nolan. He's one of the guys that puts them up on occasion with Baylor. And one of them, of course, RG3 to Terrence Williams and all these other things that were going on. But it was your hit on Sterling Shepard in 2013. That was the year you guys won a Big 12 title. It was at Floyd Casey. Do you still recall that specific play? I mean, that was a collision.
Yes, sir. I see it every time I put in hardest hit on Google, on YouTube. Wherever I put hardest football hit, that hit always comes up. And, man, it still feels like yesterday. I still remember, Coach Bennett, man, who's the best coach of all times. He prepared us for third downs. Every day in practice, we would always go over third downs. And that was a key down for us because, after that, you get one more down and we get the ball back. So we practiced that play all over and over and over. And it was just basically Sterling Shepard going across the field on the drag route. They was trying to run a clear-out route. And so we already knew that he really wasn't going to throw the ball deep to my guy. So I just kind of, creeped off a little bit. I really wanted to rob it and catch an interception, but he threw it a little bit too quick, so I couldn't get there for the interception. So the next best thing to do was to, just lay the boom.
Well, and you did. Now, I recall back then targeting was there, but they changed it. Like maybe even the next year, the targeting could actually be reviewed. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did. But now targeting is even worse now, man. I'm watching football, and, it's a lot of targeting going on now. But back then, targeting was specifically if you lead with the head. And,
right.
That hit was so fast and it was so violent and the collision was so loud that everybody just thought that it was head-to-head. But when they went back and reviewed it, which I'm, never a dirty player, and I got called so many names for that hit, but when they went back and watched it, you clearly see that I led with my shoulder because I really could have led with my head, and but I didn't want to hurt anybody, and I didn't want to hurt myself. So I led with my shoulder, and it just was a bang-bang play.
Again, because I'm recalling it's changed over the years, was that not only 15 yards, were you ejected?
Yeah, it was 15 yards. I was ejected. And if you look at if you go back and watch the play, Ahmad Dixon, he got a penalty too. So really, they end up they was at the middle of the field. And after the play was over, they ended up getting like 30 yards because they gave me the unsportsmanlike, the targeting. Then they gave Amar Dixon unsportsmanlike. Then they gave us a sideline penalty. So they gave us like 3 other penalties after that. And they did try to eject me from the game, but once they went back and reviewed it, they ended up they overturned the targeting, and they let me come back in the game. So that was super exciting. But that set the tone. You know, and that was Baylor football there.
It was, and again, you guys had beaten them with RG3's throw to Terrence Williams when Oklahoma scored, and then Bob Stoops called a timeout early in the drive, and it kind of ignited. I think it kind of pissed off the coaching staff, right? And they said, "Okay, let's go get it," right?
Yeah, they was coming on the field as well, So, man, that atmosphere of that game. That was championship type energy right there. That sided up for us.
So what was it like at that time? Because Baylor, we know, chip on the shoulder. It might even still be to this day. But you were trying to claim your territory. In 2011, RG3 won the Heisman Trophy. You guys go to a bowl game. You win it in that shootout. But you beat Texas. You beat Oklahoma. You started to get you beat TCU early in the year. And then in 13, you did all that again and won the Big 12 title at Floyd Casey. To close out the stadium, turn out the lights when you beat Texas and Mac Brown. What was it like being on those teams trying to be, hey, we can do this too?
Just coming in from the first day I came in, I knew how serious it was when Coach Browse came to Georgia and Coach Bennett came to California to sit down in my living room. And, man, I had a lot of other offers, big offers, but those guys were so serious. And when I came on my visit, I met RG3, and the atmosphere before I even got there, it was just so serious. And I knew that, hearing him talk, they was only missing a certain few pieces. And I just wanted to be a part of something special, legendary. And, RG3 told me if I come, we can do this. And Coach Bennett was telling me basically like, hey, man, we need you. And it felt good to go somewhere where I was needed. And that championship game, man, it was tremendous. Nobody really believed in us, but we believed in ourselves. And the whole year, we just always kept saying 0-0. Next week, 0-0. Let's start over. And we just took it day by day. And Coach Cos, man, he instilled so much great stuff into us. Man, he had us thinking we can run through a wall. And everybody who was there came from different walks. But everybody believed, and, everybody was Christians, and everybody put it together, and we just went out there, and we had a big chip on our shoulder because, Baylor wasn't doing so good then, back in the day, and we just wanted to prove to everybody that, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and that was our motto, and we was gangrene, and, we lift each other up, everything wasn't always perfect, but we was always there for each other, and it was a real brotherhood. And Texas and Oklahoma, like, they was just another team to us. We was Baylor, and we wanted everybody to know that it was a new Bear in town, and that's what we did, man. It was super great.
And you guys, you did plant your flag in the Big 12 championship room. Then they followed up after the year you left, and I remember when Bennett was hired, and there were times. I mean, you guys had some tough moments. It was hard. It was learning on the fly, playing junior college football. All of a sudden, you're playing against, another level, even though I know how good the junior college talent can be. How much of a bond did you and Joe Williams have together, knowing that both of you were there to try to just give them a chance?
Man, that's my brother. That's my brother from another mother. It's so crazy. I just talked to Joe yesterday, and it's like, man, we still talk about them days. And if you never went to junior college, you'll never understand, like, how rough junior college really is. A lot of people don't make it out of junior college, but if you make it out, man, it molds you. It molds you to a fine man. It's like a diamond in the dirt. Like it grinds you. It's that grind. It's gritty. It's nothing pretty. So leaving junior college, going to a university where you got 4 meals a day. Like, you got tutors, You got a real weight room. You know, that's a big culture shock. You know, when you used to working out outside, you know, you eating whatever you can afford at the time. You know, it's no scholarship, so you got to pay for everything. You know, and just going to that next level, man, it was a blessing. It was a big blessing, and like I said, me and Joe was very appreciative. We had other guys that went to junior college that was at Baylor, and you know, like it was very different, but it was a blessing. It was basically seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Like if you stay down long enough, you'll get to where you want to get. You know, but it was a grind. It was a big grind, and you know, me and Joe were super excited to play for Coach Bennett. He gave us the opportunity, man. He really believed in us, and we just wanted. I wanted to. Whatever Coach Bennett wanted me to do, I wanted to do it because I wanted to make him happy because he gave me an opportunity. And like I said, everybody knew me and Coach Bennett had a real relationship. He was really like a father to me, you know. But he always showed me tough love. You know, I could never do anything good enough for him. And at the end of everything, man, when we won that championship, man, he told me he was proud of me, and that was a good surreal moment, man, because he rolled me hard now. He rolled me really hard, but he pushed me to my best potential, and that's why I always love Coach Bennett for that.
Question about this year's Baylor's team, and again, just 2 years ago, they were playing Oklahoma at McLean and had them dead to rights, and they just let them off the hook. Oklahoma, that pedigree of who they've been, they came back to win the game, then beat Baylor in a tight game up in Arlington for the Big 12 title. What do you see? Have you watched them much? The defense, I mean, they got beat up pretty badly and mentally with what happened to the quarterback, Chandler Morris at TCU. Do you watch them much?
Yeah, man, I really just started back watching them, man. I reach out to some of the guys, and I know Baylor, man, that number eight on defense, man, I tell him congrats all the time. He's a monster, man, and he's representing that number 8. He's flying around, and they got another pretty good corner, number 3, and some good linebackers, man. They got a great front four. You know, they got a lot of pressure, and I feel like they can really do it. You know, I really feel like they're going to upset. I know they're going to upset Oklahoma if they just go out there and play by play and play together like I've been seeing them play. They play some great football, man. That TCU game, man, I was disappointed, but they play some great football. They got a good offense. They got some weapons, so I really feel like they can pull it off on Oklahoma. It's just they got to stay together. You know, they can't get down, and you know, I know the coaches are going to put them in some great places to make great plays. I see that they got one of my coaches from my high school, man. It's tripped me out. Chancey Stuckey.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Man, he's from the same hometown in Georgia that I'm from. He's like, I looked up to him in high school. I was in like elementary. He was the best quarterback to ever come through my little town.
That's awesome. I'll tell him. Well, I mean, he knows that, and we don't get to talk to the assistants much during the season, but if I bump into him, I'll make sure I said that you said hi, and I'll tweet something at him with your quote as well. So, what a lot of people don't know, you lost your mother, and obviously that's never a good time, but what a day. You find out your mother has passed away, and then what?
Man, the day I found out my mom passed, I get a call from the mother of my daughter, and she's just telling me, you know, she's calling over and over and over. I'm thinking everybody's just calling to send their condolence for my loss, and I finally answered, and she was like, hey, I've been calling you like 30 times. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? She was like, well, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, what? And so that was a surreal moment, you know, because my emotions is already all over the place. And to get news that I'm you know, having another kid is tremendous. And I just hang up the phone because I don't, you know, my emotions all over the place. And that moment forward, I knew that it was a girl because my mom always promised me she would never leave me. And man, it's so it was a bittersweet feeling. You know, that day, the day my mom died, I wrote a letter to my daughter saying that she didn't get to meet her grandmother, but her grandmother will always live inside of her. And everybody's like, how do you know it's a girl? And I'm like, I just know. And so we find out a couple of months later, it's a girl. And I just knew that was my mom, you know, because she always promised she would never leave me. And my daughter is everything, man. She means everything to me. She was really my light in the darkness. Me and my mom, man, everything I did, my career, my football, graduating school, my mom was my drive. I always wanted my parents to have a better life than they was living, and I wanted my kids to have a better life than I had. So I just wanted to break the cycle and be that it. I wanted to graduate, be able to provide for my kids and my family. And my daughter, man, she give me that drive again, because I kind of lost it after my mom. And my daughter, she's just like my mom, man.
It's like passing the torch, in a way for you. It's Kay Ellie, is that her name?
Kay Ellie, yes, sir. Kay Ellie, I gave her my mom's name as her middle name, so it's Kay Ellie Dexter Morton.
It's awesome, man. Man, I always love talking to you. You have that passion that you had when you first arrived on campus, and the way you played the game, and how you helped Baylor become just not a bowl team, but a team that's better than that, and part of that history that they're trying to get back to now. KJ Morton in Washington, D.C., former Baylor cornerback, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Masters of barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue. It's Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary, or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment, and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton. You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan, and at pioneersboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, the best game in college football, if you look at the numbers and rankings, we'll hear from Lincoln Riley on Caleb Williams and Baylor and what the program has been able to do in rebuilding 3 times in a decade. And really, 3 times in a decade. Is it Oklahoma at Baylor 8-13, or is it Texas A&M, who's gotten hot, against Ole Miss, who's right there, number 11, against A&M against Ole Miss?
I'm going Baylor, Oklahoma. It's got a direct impact on the Big 12 championship game. I know Ole Miss and A&M has some substance to it as well, but I'm going Baylor, Oklahoma. I think just the matchup to me, I feel like we're kind of splitting hairs, but I just prefer this matchup. I mean, I don't have like this is why this is exactly better. I just would prefer to watch Oklahoma and Baylor today. It's the game we've been talking about. Obviously, it's the team that we cover, and it's a top 15 matchup. So, like I said, the Baylor has to win today, or they're out of the Big 12 title race. And Oklahoma obviously is trying to stay unbeaten. So to me, I could keep going on with storylines, but there's plenty as far as the game in Waco today.
Paul, do you think that ESPN College Game Day would be here had Baylor beaten TCU? They are in Oxford right now.
Yeah, they would have. Yeah, I think so. Because you'd have a one-loss team versus an undefeated team, and a team that then this game really like Baylor doesn't need help. One of those kind of things if, whatever happens. So, yeah, I think they would have been here. I do.
Yeah, the 832 asked that. It's too bad that they're not here on the campus. It seemed like they should have been, and I mentioned the loss to TCU ended that, even if Fox Sports is here. Do you think the spat between ESPN and the Big 12 had anything to do with it? No. There might be some politics involved at times, but that's not it. Oklahoma's here. I mean, they're one of the teams going to the SEC. So, no, they're going to go to the best site, best moment, best opportunity. Other than the Army-Navy or a game or two sometimes on an alternate campus like Cincinnati, who's in the mix big time, they will go where the action is. That's their job, and they do a good job of it.
Apparently next week they're going to Montana.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that they probably missed an opportunity. I don't remember where they were last week, and maybe it was Michigan State. I don't know. But the UTEP and UT San Antonio game would have been unique out in El Paso.
I mean, yeah, they go to where the action is, but I mean, this is a higher rated game in Waco. So, I mean, I don't know why they said. Well, I mean, obviously game day would have been here if Baylor had won. Like that. Let's just leave it there. It absolutely would have been here because there would have been a total of 1 loss, whereas it's 2 7-2 teams, Ole Miss and A&M. So I don't know why game day still looked at the Baylor Oklahoma game and was like, no, we'd still rather have A&M Ole Miss. I don't know why. But, yeah, I definitely think game day would have been in Waco had it not been for that TCU game. And that's what was part of the frustration was everything that was up for grabs and the way that they played. You've got your rival dead to rights. I'll say this hopefully for the final time this year. If TCU had been in Baylor's position, TCU would have won that game by probably 27 points and never looked back. And I feel very confident in saying that. So that was part of the frustration was that you had an opportunity to knock them even further down. And unlike what they would normally do, you didn't do that. Not only didn't you not do that, but you gave them, a glimmer of hope in when they had none. They had zero. They had nothing to really, fight for except for their fired head coach or their dismissed head coach, and you gave them that and much more on Saturday. So, and the list goes on of just, where you are now in the Big 12. Today's a must-win because you lost last week, whereas had you not lost last week, today would still be a must-win for the most part, but not to the degree that it is. So, I like that Big Noon's got a good crowd out there. Scott Drew just went and did his thing a few minutes ago. He was fired up as always, so it's still a great atmosphere, and it's not game day, but it's close to it, and I think it's going to be a great crowd.
Do you have that, Armstrong, anything at all from last night? On the men's basketball team, the defending national champions, they kind of got a little bit early on. They're trying to find their ways. I love what I see from the freshmen and Kendall Brown and also Jeremy Sohan and obviously the others as well. But they did beat Incarnate Word last night, as they should have. Ended up pulling away, but they unveiled the national championship banner at where I guess it would be on the north side. I don't know what side it is, but I think the north side of the Farrell Center. But they unveiled the national championship banner. That was an amazing moment. There were, you could see some of the video of tears running down the cheeks of people who have been a part of that since Scott Drew arrived. And they also gave the rings out. Maceo Teague was on campus. Some of the other former players. Patterson was there. Mullet 1 and 2, of course, was there as well. Now, Caleb Williams. This guy brought Oklahoma back.
There's the banner.
There we go. Okay, there it is. There's the banner. And then they played the one shining moment. They played the entire ending, and it was unbelievable. You could just almost reflect back on every single moment during their run to the national championship and hammering Gonzaga in the final. Now, Caleb Williams, this kid just burst onto the scene in the second half against Texas. Texas was about to maybe make a statement. Of course, we have said that many, many times before, and even when they do, they always come back and somehow they trip over themselves. Caleb Williams broke, what was it, about a 60-some yard touchdown run, Craig, when he first came into that game?
Yeah, he came in and made an impact pretty much right away, yeah.
Had a long run, and they were still behind for quite some time. But then all of a sudden started launching these rockets, right? Started just bringing them back left and right. Lincoln Riley, in his media session late Thursday, was asked about Caleb Williams, about the hype of Caleb Williams, and about Baylor football, 3 rebuilding jobs since 2008.
Yeah, Coach, appreciate your time. Obviously, we see accolade after accolade rolling in for Caleb Williams here day after day, but you guys are heading into a stretch where you're going to face what is statistically the 3 best defenses you've seen all year. So how adequately do you feel like Caleb's prepared for that challenge, and what have you seen from him that gives you some encouragement that he's going to be able to take that challenge head on?
I think he's just trying to improve, and we're just trying to improve and get him more comfortable with running our system. Our belief is if we run our system at a high level, then, you don't get as concerned with the guys on the other sideline. We get that we're going to play some good defenses coming up. But we're pretty good offense too. And when we play to our standard and when we're playing at a high level, we've got a group that can be tough to stop. So that's been a little bit more of our focus overall, and our focus with him is just continuing to get better at us, try to understand some of the different challenges you're going to face every week. But more for us is, be better at running OU's offense and be better at doing your job. And I think if he can continue to do that with these new challenges, new things schematically that he'll see going forward, he'll continue to improve. But he's a good player. So, he's, like I said, there's some defenses that are going to do some things that give you trouble and you've got to work through, but he's going to give some people some trouble too.
Yeah, Coach, Caleb's getting more and more attention nationally lately. He's worked his way into the Heisman conversation in a very short time. Your past quarterbacks have been a little bit older by the time they get this level of hype. How is Caleb handling all that, and what do you do to keep him grounded given his youth?
I think he's handling it fine. It's, we try to really spend a lot of time here on, really focusing in on the things that are important and try not to spend a whole lot of time on the things that aren't. And, so we visited some, I watch them and, watch how he's handling things, watch how he's practicing, how he's doing in school. Again, the things that really matter. And he's continuing to just be himself and come to work and practice hard every day, get coached hard every day, and go back home and sleep and get up and do it again. So, it's kind of been business as normal here. So, that's we as a program, obviously, as you said, aren't new to that. I get that Caleb's new, but I think he's, we kind of this whole team's attitude towards whether it's an individual or team stuff right now and stuff on the outside about the team. You just show up on Saturday and take care of business. All that other stuff takes care of itself. And that's been the focus of us with every individual player. And I would say with our program as a whole right now.
Yeah, Lincoln, when you came into the Big 12 as a young student at Tech, Baylor football was not very good. No. Was that way for a long time. But 3 times now, they built themselves back up. Art built a great program. They had their scandal. Matt Rule comes in. He builds them back up. He leaves, goes to the NFL. They have to retool. Now Dave Aranda has them 13th in the nation. What's happened at Baylor from an outsider's point of view? What's happened at Baylor to go from just the bottom of the Big 12 to no matter what happens, they're a consistently really good program?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think they've hired, here's of recent, some really good coaches. I think they've been, really good with their hires. As you said, Matt did a tremendous job. Dave's come in, done a great job. And honestly, they probably, if not for COVID last year, they had a better team than what their record showed. First year staff and all that coming in, I can't imagine. But they've done a great job. They've invested. They've spent money. They built a new stadium, a beautiful stadium right there on the river. They've got really nice facilities. They're in a great location as far as recruiting. There's a lot of reasons why you look at it, say it should be a great job. And I think it took some momentum. And, once they got the thing that they did, I think was really smart is when they got some momentum and started winning some games, they pushed on the gas, man. Like they kept pushing it. They didn't sit there and, well, we're happy that we won some. Let's go build a new stadium. Let's go build new facilities. Let's go invest. Let's go, let's really push it. And I think they've benefited because of that. So you got to give them a lot of credit.
Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma head coach, brings his number 8 Oklahoma unbeaten, but underappreciated, or perhaps, of course, there's also some reasons why people feel that way. But they did have the shootout, and even though Texas has fallen off the map and out of the top 25, that was still a dramatic win. But they have, we hear about Baylor controlling their own destiny, and they do if they can beat Oklahoma today. What about Oklahoma? They have number 13 Baylor. They still have Iowa State, who's playing today. It would still be a nice win. And then Oklahoma State at the end is sitting there right there in the top 10 in the college football playoffs.
Oklahoma fans will probably lock this off, but they could seriously go 0-3. They really could. I think Baylor can beat them. I think Iowa State can beat them, and I think Oklahoma State can beat them. And on the flip side, I think Oklahoma can beat all 3 of those teams as well. So, it's a very interesting little gauntlet that they've got lined up, and this, I think, is what people have been waiting for. One thing's for sure, if they go through this 3-0, I don't want to hear a damn word about anything regarding their schedule or, will they struggle to win some of these games, and if not, for some come from, I don't want to hear any of that. If they go through this gauntlet of Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State, and they go through it unbeaten, they deserve a spot in the playoff, obviously, depending on what the Big 12 championship game would look like. But that's another thing.